What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It's the Earthmaster back here on this Tuesday night, April 4th, 2023. It's about 10:30 p.m. out here in the state of California. The latest earthquake out here looks like a 1.9 showing up into the Alaska. Also a 2.0 here from the EMSC model showing earthquake activity continuing into the Turkey region. So quite a bit of earthquake activity ramping up here. Globally, so to speak. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here from the USGS map. Of course, we did have that. Stand by for a second here. Let me zoom in, make sure this is. There we go. Alrighty. Sometimes the hotkey button does not work. So we did have a earthquake out here into the California region, just off the San Andreas Fault earlier today. A 4.5 earthquake near the Tres Pinos area. 10 kilometers deep. Now, that is not on the San Andreas Fault system, nor the Calaveras Fault zone. It looks like it was off of the Tres Pinos Fault, which is not a very lengthy fault. It looks like it's just to the east here of that major fault system called the Calaveras Fault. Very capable of producing a damaging earthquake here through the Bay region of California. There was a little bit of adjustment going on here when that earthquake did strike. Originally, it was over here around the Salinas area. After update and review, it was relocated to the Hollister area. So, yeah, a little bit of movement going on around there in the earthquake department. Now, a few folks did report feeling this earthquake. It was relatively deep somewhat, about 10 kilometers or so. It was felt throughout the majority of the South Bay area around Salinas northward up to Richmond. Looks as though even some folks there into the San Joaquin Valley reported feeling this 4.5 earthquake. And so far, let's see if we've got any aftershock activity. Do we have any aftershocks? Yes, we do. A couple of them, about 3 of them. Showing up here today. What I find odd, though, is that this earthquake struck just moments after the earthquake down here into the Panama region. So the 4.5 came in at 15:23 my time. The 6.3 there in Panama, 15:18. So roughly about 5 minutes or less, we've seen that automatic plate adjustment up here to the north. Now, I can't see this as relieving stress up here in Northern California. If anything, this is probably adding further stress into the region of the West Coast area. The general plate movement, check this out here. You can see a lot of northward movement here for the South America plate. This earthquake, let me back out of here and show you guys where the 6.3 struck. Struck in the area of pretty much a triple point junction between the we got the Caribbean plate here, Cocos plate here, and this little section here, which extends obviously into the bigger plate, the Nazca plate. You can see that earthquake pretty much occurring right on that triple point junction. And here's a little bit better view. You can see it right about here. Is where that earthquake struck, right where that hand struck. So you can see the general plate movement here heading to the northwest Caribbean plate with the subduction zone there, the Middle America Trench. This kind of tells me right here, this earthquake activity we've seen today, the sequence of earthquakes, tells me that earthquake pressure generated further up north here along this plate boundary of the Pacific and the North American plate, increasing the pressure up here along the west coast. That's why I am leaving up the earthquake watch here for the west coast area. Now, I find it very odd that this earthquake struck just momentarily following that big movement down south here. We see it a lot. It doesn't happen too often, but when it does happen, we kind of point it out. Got to remember these things are the plates that we're kind of living on out here, right? Everything we've ever known in history and whatnot takes place on these plates that we're walking on. And hopefully you're not on an oceanic plate. If you are, make sure you're on a boat. But definitely, when little adjustments take place, little medium, even sometimes large adjustments, we see that activity tend to affect an area nearby. And in this case, it affected the west coast here of California. But also, we've seen adjustments take place, say, for example, along the western Pacific over here. And then thousands of miles away, we'll see readjustment on the opposite side of the plate. So every little adjustment, it's kind of like that domino effect. You affect one piece of the puzzle, and ultimately that has a negative or a positive outcome around the plates. So just kind of keeping an eye here on the California region for now. Following that activity there into the Hollister area, I haven't really seen any major swarming going on out here across the southern portion of the state. No noticeable uptick, but remember, this thing is pretty much fused out here. The San Andreas Fault here is about as stuck and as wound up as it can be. So, a little nudge may bypass this area and show further effects upstream here along the plate boundary. But one of these days, it is definitely going to, this earthquake potential down here is going to happen. That 8.1 or so in the Southern California area is going to happen. It's just a matter of time, right? Eventually it's going to happen. People keep saying it. It's not a matter of if. We already know it's going to happen. It's just time. Time is all that matters currently. All right, so see if we got anything else going on here across the northern bay. This is the not Long Valley, but Clear Lake Volcanic Field, the geyser area. This is all hydrothermal operations. We can see it here on the map. I point this out a lot on my updates. Try not to do it every update because it gets fairly repetitive. But this is a common earthquake swarm here across the area. These are all hydrothermal plants. Notice the steam. They create energy down there by injecting human raw sewage below the surface to create steam, dry steam, and energy that powers many homes here across the Bay Area. Goodness. Woo. Thank God my dinner was a couple hours ago. But hey, they got to do what they got to do, right? Couple ones up here around the northern California coastline. All this activity prior to the movement down south. All right. Let me check out the tremor here. I was just checking out a couple different fault systems up here in their regular intervals in between, obviously major ruptures. But we'll cover that here another night. I want to check out the tremor activity here. Odd. 0 epicenters once again. And if you've been following this, tremor activity, obviously not earthquake movement, but a slow slip earthquake, so to speak, between the two plates. And in this case here, that map I'm showing you is the Juan de Fuca plate as a whole, being shoved underneath the North American plate here to the east. This is the Cascadia subduction zone. This is a major earthquake producer, and one day will be a damaging deadly earthquake out here for the Pacific Northwest. Not only that, but it will send a Pacific-wide tsunami across the entire Pacific plate. So this is I think this is one of the more areas to watch far as potential goes in creating, a noteworthy event. It's been 323 years of built-up stress since we've seen that last 9-pointer strike here in 1700. And the way things are going right now with the lack of tremor activity here, and I say that because we should by now be seeing an uptick, an elevated spike, so to speak, of tremor activity, and we haven't seen that. One thing I did notice here over the last couple of years is the regular intervals between uptick elevated tremor was getting much closer together, right? Notice these lines, these spikes here getting closer together compared to years past here since about 2010. I would say about 2020 it started happening up until about the end of 2022 here, right around the October time frame. Since then, things have come to a halt. in terms of tremor activity here along the Cascadia. Yes, we have seen some tremor, obviously. Don't get me wrong in that department, but nothing like we have been seeing, or we should be seeing. Regular intervals of tremor should be occurring here, and they're not. So put that together along with the activity we've been seeing across the Pacific Northwest and along the Cascadia subduction zone. Let me show you guys here real quick. We've noticed a couple oddball quakes out here along the Cascadia, some very shallow earthquakes, and more specifically down here in the southern end of the Cascadia, upstream of the tremor, about 17 to 20 kilometers deep here. Pretty good earthquake swarm of activity. So kind of watching this, folks, to see how it plays out here for the Cascadia. Again, this is a deadly area, and the folks along the Northern California area northward, all up across the Vancouver Island ranges, should know what to do, and should have. I would highly suggest you guys download the early alert earthquake warning system here for the for your cell phone. You know, I'm not going to deny it. My cell phone's in my hand probably 24/7 of the day. It goes in my pocket maybe occasionally when I'm driving, obviously. But for the most part, I do most of my business here on YouTube, and I'm always on my phone, always checking stuff, do a lot of my schoolwork here on the phone, do my banking on the phone. Everything's on my phone. So why wouldn't you want to have an app that alerts you to an earthquake that's happening out here within your area, considering, you know, a large damaging earthquake? So if you don't have it on your phone, you may want to. The earthquake early alert, the shake system. Look it up in your app store. And it's notified me quite a few times here of earthquakes into the Northern California area, specifically around Eureka, about 1 or 2 in the morning. I didn't appreciate being woken up, but hey, when it comes to earthquake activity, I want to be notified. So make sure you download that. And I can't stress enough here the importance of having an earthquake plan across the area. Many beautiful coastal areas out here in the Oregon, Washington, and Northern California area that are under the gun, so to speak, in terms of a you know, that tsunami potential. I think we all remember the Japan earthquake, right? Japan tsunami. That's identical as to what can happen out here across many coastal areas of the Oregon area. So make sure you guys have that early alert, shake alert system on your phone. I can't stress that enough right now. Across Oklahoma, we had a 3-pointer out here. Let's see exactly where that's at. 3.3 kilometers. There's our numbers. 333. That's a good number for me. Kearney, Oklahoma. Can't say I've ever heard of it. Out there in the anyone want to take a guess? Is there any oil fields out here? 0.9 kilometers deep. Very shallow earthquake. Hard to tell here with the vegetation, but it does look, really hard to tell here, folks, if there's any oil fields out here or any pumping operations. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. I don't know of any specific fault systems that run out here. The U.S. hazard map shows it outside of the normal seismically hazardous area down here in southern Oklahoma. So, again, hard to say. There may be some oil fields out there, some wastewater disposal facilities that are taking place in the state of Oklahoma. All right, any aftershock activity following a 6.3? Negative. Negative. That's a big negative here. 13 kilometers deep from that 6.3. So kind of watching this, seeing how it's taking place, seeing if we're going to see any major large-scale adjustment following this earthquake. Even the EMSC model doesn't look like we're seeing too much aftershock activity. A little bit of movement here with that 3.5 near the Honduras area. This is inside the Caribbean plate, a little ways up here. That's a little newer movement. And a little swarming activity north here along the Middle America Trench. All that activity following the 6.3 earlier today. So keep an eye here on the West Coast or the Middle America Trench. All right, Chile area, 5.9 coming in That 5.9 coming in earlier today, and 4.3 in the mix as well. Not super deep, roughly about 45 kilometers or so down there into the Peru-Chile Trench. We are seeing a little bit of deeper movement here, though. Notice the white rings raised off the globe, indicating some newer, deeper movement taking place. So there's definitely been a broad-scale amount of earthquake activity here over the past couple days. Also, the earthquake there in the Philippines, 6.2 coming in early this morning. A little swarm of aftershock activity in that area. Java Trench region did see some further movement as well, with a 5.0 around the Andaman Sea area, 13 kilometers deep. A little bit of bouncing back and forth here between the two regions. Goodness. Alrighty, let's see what else we have here. Kuro-Kamchatka Trench remains fairly quiet. We did have one earthquake earlier, about 8 o'clock or so, into the Japan region, 74 kilometers deep. Looks as though, let's see up here around the Tanaga and the Takawanga volcano, starting to swarm again following all this movement that's been taking place here around the Pacific. About 24 earthquakes. Nothing major going on, but definitely a little bit of uptick there across the area. Into the Big Island, got about 16 earthquakes or so, mostly around the Pahala area. No major movement, though, taking place here across the Big Island for now. Let's see, what do we got here? Tonga area looks like a fairly shallow earthquake. Got to watch this region up here upstream here for some potentially larger movement. That 4.9 coming in earlier this evening, 10 kilometers deep. Still seeing some deeper activity here around the Vanuatu area and Port Vila region. New Zealand, let me check here across the area and see what's going on here for GeoNet servers. And looks like 5 hours ago, 2.7. Couple 2 showing up here across the map for the New Zealand area. Not seeing any major uptick, any major swarming going on here across the area of New Zealand now. But of course, as always, it does sit on a major plate boundary, and it does have to adjust, right? Eventually. Look at the earthquake drums here across New Zealand shows, well, minor activity, to say the least. Most of the movement today looks as though it's been down around the South Island, New Zealand area, with a couple 3s coming in. All right, further to the west here, a little bit of movement across China. Iran area, Turkey area, of course, seeing some movement as well. Where did we go? And pop that back up here. Seeing some smaller quakes here across the Turkey area, 2s and 3s. Looking at the Java Trench region here. Now, if you were looking at the USGS map, you really can't see too much activity kicking up here. But there's quite a few 3s, even some 4s here, back building into the southern end of the Java Trench. So we'll watch that, see if that momentum wants to continue across this area, possibly triggering some larger movement around the Sumatra area. Definitely keep that in mind. 5.0 in the Tunisia area. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Just outside the Algeria region, 10 kilometers deep earlier today. Atlantic Ocean, fairly quiet. Not a whole lot popping off out there in the divergent boundaries. Let's see, what do we got coming in here? So that 3.5 latest quake is going to be somewhere in the Turkey area, it looks like. Kind of buried in there. All right, we'll worry about that here in a little bit. So keep an eye, folks, I think here. In California, you know, we have had a lot of rainfall out here on these fault systems, and a lot of these are surface faults, relatively shallow surface fault systems here. And sometimes the massive amount of rainfall can get into these faults and lubricate them, so to speak, and trigger earthquakes. And some of these faults around the Bay Area are primed for some larger scale movement, and they've seen a lot of a lot of rainfall here recently. So, you know, I kind of think it's probably going to take a couple months, if not more, for some of that rainfall to possibly get down there and lubricate some of these faults to create some larger quakes. But then again, it may be sooner. We'll definitely keep an eye on that, see if we get an elevated amount of earthquake activity here across California due to the excessive rainfall we've received this winter. All right, Yellowstone National Park. Let's see if this site's working or not. Been having some issues here with the Yellowstone site. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But at least it's online, right? A little bit of activity here. Looks like we had kind of a double tap earthquake out here somewhere. I am not 100% certain. This may be the activity of the 6-pointer there in. Let's check this out here real quick. Let me bring up the map here and see. This 6-pointer struck at 15:18. UTC time is going to be 22:18 UTC time. Okay, so 22:18 is going to be roughly about here. So what we're seeing, this is pretty cool to see. We're seeing that 6-pointer there in the Panama area. Also, the 4-pointer that struck in California. I'm seeing 2 earthquakes there around that same time. Because remember that 4-pointer California came just moments after the 6-pointer in Panama. So that's exactly what we're seeing. A 4.5 could potentially show up into the area of Yellowstone as far as the seismograph reading goes. Not going to be felt, but definitely the reading itself could be felt, or could be picked up here across the area. That's that double tap type of earthquake. But 2 separate earthquakes thousands of miles away being picked up in Yellowstone. Okay, but as far as Yellowstone activity goes, it looks fairly quiet. We're not seeing any major swarms, no major magma movement, no doom and gloom to chat about there tonight. Space weather activity as we move on here, fairly minimal. Looking at 65% chance for C flare, M flare at 15, X flare around 5% chance. And I think the only likely culprit could be 3270 here. It is looking fairly complex. It is growing, and it has been growing here over the past couple days. It kind of popped up out of the blue, but it is turning away from the Earth, and it will be rotating off the southwestern limb here of the sun in the coming days, and we're left with a whole lot of nothingness in terms of any major solar sunspots out here. That's about our only hope of seeing any significant flare, at least on the Earth side of the sun. No major coronal holes facing us, so it looks like the 3-day remains calm. Not a whole lot of greenery up there in the sky, unfortunately, folks. Hopefully we can change that for you as we head towards the solar maximum here soon. All right, weather activity. We were expecting some 70s and 80s out here along the west coast here this weekend and early next week, but that has since changed to a colder and wetter pattern. Got some more rain coming in here into the California area coming Thursday and Friday. And it looks like maybe another one behind that for Monday into early next week. Following that, looks like maybe a dry spell. Well, as soon as I say a dry spell, look what comes up out of the blue. Some heavy precipitation up here along the Coast Range. Some incredible rainfall rates coming in, actually. So that looks like the April 17th, April 18th time frame. Man, look at that heavy-duty snow. That's some deep snow accumulation there on the 18th of April. And, it's been one for the record books, folks. Let me tell you, I can't even really explain how wet it's been out here. It's good. Going to put us out of the drought for sure, hopefully. Thermodynamics here. Let's see what we got for it. Look at this. I think this pretty much explains itself here. This is earlier today. The red areas here indicative of warmer environment above normal temperatures here. Over to the west here, looks like this is going to be cooler than normal. These are anomalies here, temperature anomalies. And as we put this into motion here, this kind of goes on to the 7th and 8th of April. It looks as though things are going to start warming up here around the Colorado and the Southern Plains area. West Coast, though, if you notice here along the West Coast, things are remaining cool. So much for our warmer temperatures coming in. And it looks as though, goodness, it looks as though into the 19th of April as well. We're much colder than normal. While the eastern portion of the country continues to cook. But look at this. This line right here, you guys notice this sharp line? That is where the severe weather happens if things are set up properly. And it looks as though that's going to be the trend here for a little bit. Some severe weather taking place into the plains area throughout the month of April. And of course, we're getting into that severe weather season. Current Storm Prediction Center here, moderate risk across areas of the Missouri and Arkansas area. It looks like Russellville area, Arkansas. This is current day 1 for tomorrow now. Things are shifting towards the east and the north a little bit here around Ohio and other areas around that region. Looking out at the extended forecast here from the Storm Prediction Center, doesn't show any spectacular days lined up, at least according to them. Continue to watch that. Thunderstorm forecast tonight. Of course, we still have some potential there across the areas of Texas, stretching all the way up towards the Great Lakes area. So heads up if you guys are out there. Keep an eye on the severe weather potential. Alrighty, I think I am done for the night. We'll keep an eye on things, folks. As always, appreciate all the comments there. People reported feeling this earthquake here. Not a big earthquake, obviously. And, you know, a lot of people saying this could be a foreshock to something bigger. But, you know, we just never know. You really never know if this is going to be a foreshock to anything. Last 7 days of earthquake activity here in the 4.5 department. That's the only one out here. Last 30 days as well. So I think California is definitely, I would say, you know, overdue in terms of seeing a larger scale earthquake out here across many different regions. It's not just one region. It's many regions across here of the state that's overdue for some larger earthquake activity. So not good odds for the most part when it comes to, you know, looking at earthquake activity potential, that is. All right, guys, have a good one. Stay safe. We're going to bounce out of here. Welcome to the new subscribers, new members out here. I did add a couple new levels here for the members. And basically those elevated levels of membership are for folks that like to support the channel in terms of, you know, obviously monetary values and, you know, helping us continue the live stream 24/7, and we do it 24/7 out here, folks. If it goes down, I try my best to get it up as soon as possible. We've been doing this for quite a while, providing live data out here for the viewers, and that's what we will continue to do. So the elevated levels or membership are for those that like to donate a little bit more or would like to help out the channel a little bit more. And of course, all perks and whatnot are provided to all levels of membership. And we're doing, of course, another member giveaway here in about 11 days or so. So look forward to that. In the meantime, guys, have a good night. Please stay safe out there. And, of course, we'll catch you guys back here sometime tomorrow. Take care, folks.